Welcome to Toni Unleashed, the podcast where we unleash the truth about all things pets.
Our research and anecdotal evidence matched with pet expert interviews will help you help your pet thrive.
We are here to answer questions, divulge information, and spread awareness about what's really going on in the world of pets.
I am your co-host, Emily Taylor, pet nutrition enthusiast.
And I'm Toni Unleashed, owner of Healthy Pet Products with 3 locations in the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania area, and recently expanded to Port Charlotte, Florida.
Welcome to the show.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Toni Unleashed, the podcast. Today, we're talking about something fairly controversial. That's starting to understand how to read your dog food label. What to look out for, a deeper dive into some scarier ingredients that are actually allowed in your dog and your cat's food, right?
Right.
So, and this is going to be episode 101. So this is the basics, and then there will be a more comprehensive episode soon to follow.
Right. Because it's a lot. This is a really heavy topic. I mean, we're talking about, realizing what you're feeding your dog, right. Understanding what you're feeding your dog, and understanding what some words that you might not know what they are mean.
Right. And M writes, I don't know if everybody realizes this, but we decide together what we're going to talk about, but M pretty much writes the episodes and comes up with a script and does the research, even though a lot of our research is already done, but she keeps it up to date and all that kind of stuff. But this is I think the first episode that she was like, fuck, I don't know where to start.
Yeah, I did some crazy deep dives into this world and didn't even know where to start. I was just like, there's so much.
And I think that so she reached out to me and said, I don't know what to do. I'm freaking out. So
it's a scary world once you start diving into this stuff.
It really is. Especially when you start looking into AAFCO definitions.
I have AAFCO ready to go.
So AAFCO is an acronym that means American Association of Feed Control Officials, right?
And that's where I got confused. Not confused. That's where I was like, where do I go with this? Because AAFCO defines, there's feed and there's food. So we have a feed category for dogs and we have a food category for dogs and cats. And they're 2 very different things. And the feeding guidelines, the guidelines for feed are a lot less loose and not as well defined and not as maybe protein nutrition heavy as we'd want them. And then there's food, and it's hard to differentiate the two, and it's hard to understand what you're feeding, and it's hard to navigate this world in general.
But I think what's most important to understand right out of the gate is the same governing body that controls what our feed animals eat, which means
material that has been determined to be safe, functional, and suitable for its intended use in animal food is handled and labeled appropriately and conforms to the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act unless otherwise expressly permitted by the appropriate state or federal agency. Suitable use in animal feed.
So what animal feed control officials deem good enough, I guess, for lack of a better word, to feed our cattle, our chickens, our pigs,
right?
Anything that humans eat, they also control what our pets eat.
Yep.
So that's where it's a little, it's to me, that's a pretty blurry line. Same with Food and Drug Commission. Why would food and drug be governed by the same body of people?
Right.
I think those are two. Those should.
I think that just says what it needs to say right there.
I agree. So we're going to keep this episode pretty basic and basically just tell you how to read an ingredient panel,
Labels 101.
Labels 101.
Pretty basic, simple, to the point, some of the main things to avoid and why, what they are. And then we'll see where this takes us.
So first and foremost, on the ingredient panel, just like human ingredient panels, everything is listed by weight. So your first ingredient, and honestly, your first 4 to 5 ingredients really should be an identified meat source. So when I say an identified meat source, I mean like turkey. You want to see turkey. You want to see chicken. You want to see lamb. You want to see goat. You want to see some meat source that is identified, and you don't want to see the word byproduct.
Or animal protein.
Right. You don't want to see meat meal. Right. Animal byproduct. When you have an unidentified meat source, that means it literally can be any animal, including roadkill, euthanized pets, euthanized horses, euthanized anything. And the scary part is...
Or just found dead.
Or found dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the scary thing is pentobarbital, the FDA tested meat meal, animal byproduct, and they came up positive for pentobarbital. Pentobarbital is the drug that we use to euthanize animals. So that is in your pet's food if the ingredient meat byproduct is in there, meat meal, animal byproduct, animal digest, anything that is an unidentified meat source.
Right.
Terrifying.
Also, if your food starts with the word corn or it doesn't start with a protein. So let's just take, I'm pulling up an ingredient panel. I mean, this is one of the standards for a extruded kibble. And we'll just look at the first 5 ingredients real quick.
Okay.
The first ingredient is humanely raised beef. And then it has the source of protein, which is New Zealand. Second ingredient is ocean whitefish meal, sourced from Washington State. Third ingredient is field peas, sourced from North Dakota, United States. Fourth ingredient is sweet potato, sourced from United States, California, North Carolina. And the fifth ingredient is beef liver, sourced from New Zealand.
Wow.
So, I mean, that's kind of a standard. That's really a high quality ingredient panel. Not most extruded kibbles will even say where they're sourced from. Not to mention that their protein is humanely raised. Certified humane for that reason either.
So the next, after you see your meats,
right,
you want to be aware of the ingredients following up those meats.
Right.
If there are several forms of grains or carbohydrates that follow up meat, that can diminish the overall percentage of meat in the ingredient panel.
Right. So some foods you'll notice as you're shopping through will say 80 to 95% meat protein or animal protein, because some labels will try to misinterpret plant proteins or carbohydrate proteins or legume proteins lumped into their overall protein source.
Well, even corn reads as a protein.
Right. Yeah. Case in point.
Yeah.
There you go.
So you really have to be careful. And then the items listed further down have, of course, a smaller percentage of the whole package. And then it usually ends with synthetic vitamins and minerals that account for 1% of the total weight of the initial product.
Yeah.
And just to review ingredients we'd like to avoid, we definitely do not want to see wheat, corn, soy, chemical preservatives, or food coloring in any way, shape, or form in that ingredient panel. The reason why we don't like wheat is because it's a very high allergen in dogs and cats, and it's an inflammatory, and it's genetically modified.
Yeah.
Corn, same deal.
So a lot of companies will put corn into their food for those glucose spikes, for those sugar spikes in dogs. So a lot of the times when you have a dog who has a heavy corn diet, you might notice that they might be hungry all the time because when they eat, that's when their sugar spikes. That's when their metabolism spikes. That's when their energy spikes. So they burn off all that energy and then they're automatically hungry again. So a lot of diabetic pancreatitis meals will have corn in it for that reason. There's no real nutritional value outside of a sugar spike in corn that's beneficial to your animal.
And humans can't digest corn.
Right.
So how can we expect dogs or cats
Right.
who are carnivores to digest corn?
We'll see sometimes companies try to trick the consumer into thinking that corn is 100% digestible and is beneficial because they'll say, well, if it's ground up, and I've seen this firsthand, if it's ground up really fine, and if it's ground up to the point where you can't even see it, it looks like a powder to yourself, then you're not going to see it in your dog's bowel movements. But if you give them just like a full kernel of corn, you probably most likely will see it eliminate through their bowel movements. But if it's ground up really fine, you probably won't.
Whatever. It's a cheap filler, bottom line. Wheat is a cheap filler. Corn's a cheap filler.
I mean, I know we're saying, let's just talk about some corn facts real quick. And this is from Susan Thixton, who really challenges AFCO and really tears apart, ingredient panels, sourcing, quality control, etc. So here are just some facts about corn. According to the Institute for Feed Education and Research, corn is used in pet food more than any other ingredient. 700,000 tons more corn is used in pet food than any other ingredient. The corn used in pet food is not corn on the cob type corn or sweet corn like we, think about. The variety of corn in pet food is field corn. Field corn is harvested after the kernels are dry and is mainly used for animal feed, from cattle feed to pet food, but is also used to make human food such as tortilla chips, taco shells, and corn meal. All of the grades of corn, including sample grades that contain 0.1% of stones or 2 or more pieces of glass, 4 or more particles of commonly recognized toxic substance, 0.2% animal filth, has a musty smell and or is distinctly low quality or allowed in pet food. Pet food regulations do not require manufacturers to disclose the grade of corn used to make your pet's food. Your pet's food could contain the highest quality or the lowest quality corn without your knowledge.
I'm surprised that the feed industry has enough corn to carry over into the pet food industry, but whatever.
I'm sure there's a demand for it. That's why.
It's crazy.
I mean, look at all the Purinas and the Imes and the Eukanumas and the Roys that are out there. I mean, they're big companies and there's probably a high demand.
But we also have a ton of fucking cattle that are eating corn. And chickens even eat corn.
I mean, I don't know. I've never been to Iowa, but I'm sure if I drove through the state, I'd see a ton of corn.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a ton of corn farms in this country. And those are also all genetically modified. And then that leads us into soy, which is another genetically modified ingredient. So,
enzyme inhibitor affects the thyroid.
Endocrine disruptor.
You're right.
So, everyone's like, oh, well, genetically modified. Okay, whatever. What does that mean? So genetically modified, these seeds are injected with insecticides so that as the plant grows, they emit an insecticide so that less crops have to be sprayed topically with insecticides and herbicides, but it's within the plant itself. So the actual seed has been modified and grows with insecticides in it. So we are feeding these animals with all of these insecticides, and we wonder why they're chewing
allergy issues, cancer,
and so many autoimmune disorders.
Right. The number of autoimmune disorders are like through the roof. I mean, we talk about it every day, all day, but scientific studies say it's okay. Whatever. Okay. Yeah. Big labels, big companies say it's okay.
Yeah. And then we have chemical preservatives.
Mm-hmm.
Same deal. Just cancer-causing ingredients and food coloring. We know what I mean.
So there's what Beneful had a whole marketing plan about having, your red kibble, your clear, your cream kibble, and your yellow kibble.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, oh, that means, squash.
Yeah. Tomatoes.
Carrots. No, that's food coloring.
Yep.
It's not real. It's corn.
And it's common knowledge now in this country and hopefully the world that food coloring causes ADD in kids.
I mean, the number of people who are allergic to red dye.
Yeah.
And for seizures and for other autoimmune disorders. Like you're told to avoid red food coloring, red dye. All right. Yeah. I mean, that was heavy.
So those are the basics of what we sell at Healthy Pet Products. Those are the basics. We don't have any foods that have wheat, corn, soy, chemical preservatives, or food coloring. I've been in business in this October of 2023 will be 15 years. And it's been that way since day one.
So let's talk real quick. After we already talked, I hear a lot in the store about Purina Pro Plan and how it's a high protein, well curated, high quality diet for dogs. So after we've talked about what we talked about, let's look at their ingredient panel. Okay. Number 1, chicken. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Great.
Sure. Number
Meat.
2, rice.
Oh.
Number 3, whole grain wheat. Number 4, poultry byproduct meal. And then they put in parentheses, source of glucosamine. But if we go back to our animal byproduct meal definition, that is a rendered, cooked prior to manufacturing of pet food ingredient. The AFCO FDA definition allows slaughtered or, and this is important, non-slaughtered whole animal carcasses or any part of the animal, including horn, hoof, hide, and intestines. Definition allows feces to be included. Any animal species is allowed in this ingredient. So if we just say poultry, so that could be a full feces included turkey, duck, chicken. We don't know how it was killed. We don't know what it includes. Okay, so that was ingredient, number 4?
Mm-hmm. We just know it wasn't fit for human consumption.
100%, yep. Mm-hmm. Soybean meal.
Is this Pro Plan?
Yep. And then I'm just going to go on and say, just real quick, just for the fun of it, what is this? The 6th, beef fat preserved with mixed
tocopherols.
And then corn gluten meal. And we have the definition of corn gluten meal. Is used as a source of protein. So they are using...
That's the definition?
Well, no.
Sorry.
Purina Pro Plan says that it's a high protein diet and they are using corn gluten meal as their source of protein in pet foods. But the definition is the principal protein component of corn endosperm. It consists mainly of zein and glutenin. Corn gluten is byproduct of the wet milling of corn starch. The gluten fraction is washed to remove residual water-soluble proteins. Corn gluten is also produced as a byproduct of starch in whole or various fractions of dry milled corn to corn syrups. Corn gluten meal is registered pesticide with the Environmental Protection Agency. The agency states the technical grade active ingredient TGAI gluten's corn, also known as corn gluten meal, consists mainly of zein and gluten, mixture of water and soluble proteins that occurs in most cereals and grains, and to a lesser degree, fat and fiber. The active ingredient is a byproduct of the wet milling of corn for starch, or as a byproduct during the conversion of the starch in whole or various fractions of dried milled corn to corn syrup. Sick. Sounds healthy.
Well, that's a lot.
Sounds really great for you.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, what are your thoughts? Like, what do you see as being in this industry for so long and being a retailer? Are there okay foods out there? Are companies aware of this? Is it like, what do you see out there? What are the trends? Are there okay dog foods to buy to feed your dog?
I think a lot of pet food companies are the ones that are using corn are trying to not use corn because it is becoming more common knowledge that you don't want corn in dog food or cat food, but the less expensive ones, there's no way around it. So I feel like that's what I'm seeing. You're seeing less corn, but
right.
It's still there. And they have to use some type of cheap starch
to keep the food affordable.
Right.
So, I mean, I think overall what we're trying to say is just to read your ingredient label, question it, think about it as if you're buying this for yourself almost. I mean, if there's something that if there's a word that you don't understand or recognize, research it. I mean, it's so easy to just copy and paste that word into Google.
I think the scariest message that I'd like to convey is we would rather you feed table scraps.
Yeah.
Instead of feeding kibble. Or if you could replace some of your kibble, especially if there's wheat, corn, or soy in it,
right,
chemical preservatives or food coloring, if you can reduce the amount of kibble and replace that with healthy table scraps. I'm not talking about McDonald's chicken nuggets or anything like that,
but like scrambled eggs,
potatoes, chicken,
rice,
any meats, cuttings,
vegetables that are going old and you don't have anything to do with them. Put them in the freezer, boil them, give them to your dog.
Yeah. And just keep a container of chicken scrap or kitchen scraps in your refrigerator scrape the plates into that container. Don't scrape the plate directly into your dog's bowl, but incorporate those table scraps as part of your dog's meal, just like our parents did and our grandparents did.
Right.
I mean, my parents barely fed dog food. I mean, my dog growing up existed on table scraps, to be honest with you. I mean, she'd have her occasional can of Alpo or her occasional can of Old Roy for sure. But whole food ingredients is really what they need to thrive on.
Right.
And then to round this episode out, we will talk about some really serious red flag ingredients beyond what we just talked about with unidentified meat sources. Some other really heavy ones, which, to be honest with you, we don't see them nearly as much as we used to. I think this is where consumer advocacy has really gotten us, because we don't see these three as much as we used to, and that's BHA, BHT, and ethoxyquin.
Some of the keywords that we're talking about to avoid that we will dive into later are meat byproducts, poultry byproducts, which we kind of touched on today, poultry meal, animal digest, understanding just what the word meat is, meat and bone meal, and poultry byproduct meal. I mean, as you can already tell, it's a clever way of saying things, and it's a clever way to trick the consumer into what they're actually buying.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to just dive into what all of this means and what the pet food industry is selling you as convenience. But it's really not that convenient because you're paying for it in the end with vet bills.
Yeah. Yeah. And BHA is known, and I welcome anyone to do the research. BHA is a known carcinogenic. It has been pulled from the human food allowable ingredients for decades. I'm not even going to try to pronunciate this acronym, butylated hydroxyanazole.
Yeah.
Linked to tumors in lab animals. The state of California has listed BHA under the list of chemicals known to cause cancer. FDA regulations allow BHA to be added to dog food to preserve fats. Fuck that. Fuck that. BHT, popular abbreviation for a common dog food additive known as butylated hydroxytoluene. I don't know. The chemical is used in certain dog food to prevent fats and oils from prematurely spoiling. In other words, BHT can extend the shelf life of a fat in a food product, but that's not all it can do.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Scary.
Ethoxyquin is a fat preservative sometimes used in dog food that has garnered a controversial reputation. It appears much of the fear of ethoxyquin in pet food may be related to its use as a pesticide and in making rubber. Yet today, most food safety experts agree that when used properly, the synthetic additive is non-toxic.
Yeah, we have to have a whole other episode about this.
So I think we have to at least mention that these ingredients and other ingredients. So a pet food manufacturer sources from a meat manufacturer. If the meat manufacturer chooses to preserve their meats with ingredients, they can do so. The pet food manufacturer does not have to list those ingredients because they didn't include them in their food. The meat manufacturer did.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big statement right there.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that pretty much sums everything that we talked about up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's all red tape, legal jargon, ways to manipulate the consumer, ways to make yourself sound better than you actually are, ways to hide the truth, but also say what you mean. Yeah, it's a lot.
It is a lot. And we don't want to scare people, but
we also kind of do. But not in a judgmental way.
Right.
But in a way that's like, this is our just reality in more ways than one. Like this is, I mean, yeah, we're just talking about dog food, but like this is our reality with our own food. And this is our reality with, you know, the way that marketing is.
And it's up to us to change it because we have to, every dollar, every penny, everything that we spend is essentially a vote.
Right.
So less money needs to go into those processed foods in the human world and the pet food world.
And I will be the first to admit, I do buy those double stuffed Oreos.
You do?
Once in a while.
Oh.
Double stuffed Oreos are so good. You can stick your fork in them and then dip them in some oat milk, and that's a whole vegan meal right there.
Are they vegan?
Yeah.
Oh, get out.
Yeah.
I didn't even, are you sure?
No, 100%. But it's because they're full of chemicals. It's not actually real cream or like dairy in there. I mean, case in point. Yeah. Oreos are vegan, like red flag.
Just because something says it's vegan does not mean it's healthy.
100%.
Is that your point?
100%. Yes, I'm very well aware of all of this. Panda Express is coming out with vegan chicken. Does that mean that's healthy?
Ew.
No, it does not
Ew.
mean it's healthy. It means it's convenient and quick and there.
It's probably made from wheat gluten.
Oh, 1000% it is. Yeah, and sugar.
I'm so glad I'm not a vegan.
Yeah. I mean, vegans, have their place in the world too. All right. We just want to thank everyone for listening. We want to talk to you guys more about this topic and take a deeper dive into how you can feel comfortable picking out food for your dog or cat. We don't want to ever make anyone feel bad about what they are feeding their dogs. Any dog in a warm, loving home with stability, structure, and a warm bed to sleep on at night is really lucky, especially with all the homeless dogs out there. We just want to inform the public about the truth that goes on in this industry. It is seemingly safe and trusting industry, but yet there are companies and processes in place that use marketing and tricks and ways to trick consumers into buying food thinking it's healthy and safe. Might have more issues than not.
Well, if you'd like to talk more about this with us and want to deeper dive into the conversation, have some thoughts that might challenge our approach to reading a label, please reach out. We can only learn and grow through conversation and working together. So what's the best way to reach us?
I think we have a cue for, I think we already said it.
Oh, we have a pre-recorded one?
Yeah. Cue pre-recorded ways to contact us. So it's been gone for 10 minutes and this went to absolute shit. All right, sick. All right, I'm going to end with a song. Or start with a song. If you want to buy your dog something to eat, if you want to buy your cat something good to snack on, just make sure you read the label and can understand everything that you are reading. If you don't know a word, look it up. If you don't know anything, look it up, because Google is your friend.
So are we.
Sick.
If you're hearing this message, you've listened to our entire episode, and for that, we thank you.
If you have any questions or would like to follow our other projects, join our Toni Unleashed and Healthy Pet Product social media pages like Facebook and Instagram.
Please leave us a review and share episodes with your friends so we can further expand our message to listeners just like you.
Don't hesitate to tell us which topics you would like us to cover in future episodes. To get in touch, you can reach us by emailing info@toniunleashed.com or by sending us a message on social media.
And reminder that episodes drop bi-weekly on Tuesdays. Thanks again for all your support.